How are you doing
Good
today?
good morning, Rhonda. I'm fabulous.
So, before we get started, we just got off of a coaching call with one of our dreamies. And how do you feel right now?
Oh my gosh, I was hoping we were going to open this episode this way. So thank you for picking up my telepathic vibes. I am just like on top of the world, right? That we get to work this way with people that we absolutely love, cherish, and adore, and that are making a huge difference and impact not only in their families' lives with their business, but also what they're creating for clients. Like the level of matched energy and connection is complete fire. And I feel like I can accomplish anything I put my mind to. And especially right now within this energetic field. And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't say, if you're listening to this and not experiencing this in your business or with your clients, that is my greatest wish for you, is to walk away on the other side of this episode and say, I want that in my life and my business. I want to love who I work with. I want to be lit up by who I surround myself with. Even when we have bad days, like when there's equalizing energy like this, there is nothing that can come at us that we can't figure out a way to overcome. Like, and that is the state that I want so many more businesses to be in. And that's why we're here. That's why we're on the podcast. That's why we're talking. So that's how I feel, Rhonda.
Well, I am so excited that we're recording this session after that call because typically, so this is just, I mean, we're all having coffee together because typically after a call like that, I will pick up the phone or Cassie will pick up the phone and we're like, is this really our life right now? And we are so filled with excitement, with joy. And it's almost like I want, just like what you said, like I want more people to experience this because we almost kind of end the question, who else can we work with? Who else needs this? Who else needs to feel this excited? And I mean, man, we get to. I mean, what a great statement. We get to.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest and say too, the call, it was interesting. It was like an emotional roller coaster. Like we were on highs and we were laughing and then we were, hands in the air and the hair flying back, and I have short hair, so that's really hard to do. And then as we were like going down, like tears in our eyes, I think you were the only one who didn't cry. So
Oh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Like my eyes got watery. Like it's one of those things, like when we have that impact on someone for the moment where she took a deep breath, like you could just feel the weight, like of everything that had been a burden coming into the call and just removing it and saying, okay, we're clearing this path to have this intentional focus and the ripple effect of what that means, right? Like um that was powerful for me to see and experience, because I know we get so caught up in business and being efficient and being so focused on certain measurements that we're going for in business that we neglect what we're bottling up and carrying with us that actually is creating the roadblocks. And so we're entering this loop of stress and overwhelm and burden. And it's honestly, it is blocking and almost like has a death grip on our genius and our impact. And that's what I witnessed today, is the release of that and stepping into not only a world of possibility, but a simpler way.
And what a beautiful segue into today. Like, I think that was like a whole episode. Should we just say cut or should we just keep going
We're going
and
to keep going.
what we were going to talk about? Because this is really something on our hearts. And I think that we had another conversation, y'all. Seriously, Cassie, put it on our list. We need t-shirts. We were having conversation and I was like, we need to deconstruct the launch mindset, because friends, that deconstruct the launch right there is a friction point, because there is so much baggage that we attach just to that little word launch. So let's go, Cassie. Fire it up.
Okay,
How are we going
let's
to
do it.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So here's the thing. Rhonda and I usually map out some openers and then the stories that we're going to lay the foundation with. And we are just kind of full throttle today. And I'm glad, because the result of where we are coming out of this coaching call happened, like 90 days, right? Like 90 days ago, when we decided we are going to match where the market is begging us to be, right? And this is where the conversation started of deconstructing the launch mindset. We honestly did not even have everything planned out. We didn't even know we were going to do this. We were at dinner with someone who, just in talking, when when you're networking and when you're meeting new people, like, oh, hey, what do you do? Where are you at in business? Like, what's going on, right? Like, how interesting are you? And how can we connect? And Rhonda, just a few sentences into the conversation, the gal looks at her and is like, oh my God, I need to work with you. And Rhonda's like, well, first of all, like, what the heck did I say? Right? Like, that locked everything together. And I'm going to pass it to you, Rhonda, because like, I was not even privy to this conversation, right? Like this, we were out of town. We were both presenting at a workshop. We were leading the workshop. And we were honestly, it's so interesting when we look at this and we see hindsight, because we were so close. Well, I wasn't, because like, I really don't care or plan for a crap ton of stuff, but we were finishing up our presentations and you were like, I don't know if we need to go to dinner. I'm really tired. So at that, I'm going to pass it back to you, because that's the state of mind you are in. And we would not be sitting here 90 days from now if we were just like, let's just keep our head down and work.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the theme with the t-shirt is optimization comes from conversation. In that moment, when I am tired, like we had given it our all for like 48 hours, like the emotion, like everything like that we could give, we gave. And the transformations that came out of that, I think you also carry those, because we carry our clients with us and the results that they want. We want that for them too. That's what she's talking about in terms of matching energy, right? And I had actually taken a nap and I woke up still feeling drunk. And I'm not a drinker. So to still feel drunk, I was just exhausted. It was just emotionally exhausted. And so we ended up, we went to dinner and there was this exchange in between somebody. It was even in between somebody. My face is sliding off. And I looked to her and I'm like, yeah, I help business owners organize with systems and processes. At that moment, she was like, take my money. And I was like, yeah. And like we ate dinner, Cassie's on the other side, engaged in conversation with other people. And like we leave the building and she's still, take my money. And this is not me flexing. I am not flexing at all. I am not, like, when something is like truly obvious to me, sometimes I do not see that neon sign that's flashing. But what started was a love affair with me just face sliding off and having that 30-second conversation and a flight home and one call in, like 4 days later, literally like halfway in between, all three of us were on a Zoom call. And she's like, stop it right here. You guys can just stop. She used other words. I won't use those words. I'm in. What is it? I'm in. And it was that magic at that point that we knew was kind of coming between the two of us, because I put Cassie and her I say Cassie's strategy is fire. And coming off today's conversation with one of the members that we were talking to, it's almost like I could not share that transformation that happened today. Oh my gosh, we are all looking for that. And those transformations come through really uncomfortable, like ugly cry. There was not ugly crying today, but ugly crying conversations. It is not a huge runway for a launch. They are simple conversations.
Yeah. So to bring it all back around, what was interesting, when Rhonda was catching me up, she's like, I don't know what to do. I guess we need to put together an offer. Like, what would that even look like? And I want to focus on that question. What would that even look like? The moment that you allow yourself to explore the possibilities, like how many times have you put your own boundaries of your potential in life and business because you just weren't willing to ask yourself the question, what would that look like? So that's kind of like my challenge to you guys who are listening today. Like, what would it look like for you to allow yourself to stop putting boundaries and limitations on what it is that you're doing or offering? And because we didn't have, like, the sky's the limit, right? So we really just started with that one person in front of us, who said, I need that. I want that. What would it look like? Opened up a conversation where Rhonda and I had a flight together where it's like, okay, what would that look like? Right. And what was just a bunch of notes on an iPad screen turned into one of the best decisions that I have made in my life and my business, to be able to create, like, and just to look back and to see what could have stood in the balance if we would have overcomplicated it. Okay, what if we would have said, well, what this looks like is an 8-week campaign building launch where we need to have the sales page built, we need to have the offer mapped out, we need to go live, we need to do this, we need to have a webinar. Like, all of the shoulds just melted away. And all we did was talk to the people right in front of us. That was just like, I don't even need to hear anymore. I'm in. What would that look like in your life and your business?
Friction points of how am I going to deliver this? So one of the things that I say, like in terms of like getting constructive feedback, is call my baby ugly. And at the time when we first started the Deconstruct the Mindset, or the launch mindset, I knew that I love Searchy, and I knew how to host the calls there where they were searchable. That was really, really important to me, the customer experience. I knew how to onboard our customers. So we started out with an ugly hub. It was ugly. But we did it, and we just kept adding to it. The transformations didn't happen because people logged into the hub. Transformations happened because people showed up and had conversations, number one. And then the second thing that holds people back is a friction point, our websites. I'm going to call the baby ugly. We put up, so we even have like pictures of us. I don't even know how that happened. So we put some pictures up on a Squarespace site so we would have a place on the internet. And we're 90 days in now, and we are going back and we are answering those questions that would have held us back. Oh, we can't do anything until we have a website. We can't do anything until we have a place to host all this information. That information or that content overwhelm that you lead somebody to in a dashboard, like, what we're encouraging is conversation, working through the problem and taking action and coming back and saying, okay, I did this. What's next? All right, this is the next step. What do you want to add?
Yeah. So what's coming up for me is just the opportunity to have those conversations and meet people where they're at and serve, because that is what created the hub, right? Seeing where the bigger gaps were, right? Like we launched with who was right in front of us, whose house was on fire. Yeah. Right. And I'm going to go into that analogy because we've talked about it now for several weeks. And I honestly can't remember if we've talked about it on the podcast or not. So we're going to revisit that if we've already mentioned it, or we're going to introduce a new concept to you guys today. That is just my mom of four brain and how we roll. But, you know, when we look at that, like our website now, our direction now, people joining the group and the community now, I'm not even going to call it a program, right? Because a program follows this module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like there's foundations, right? And we have structure, but we've also intentionally structured so much organic conversation because that's where people bury everything. And that's what needs to come to the surface, right? That's our magic, is willing to go there and to get messy. And I'm so grateful for it. But on the other side of that, it was a friction point. Like you said, so many people are like, hold on, I got to build the funnel. Hold on, I've got to have beautiful branding. Hold on, I've got to have all of this checklist on all of these things to do. But the thing is, all you need is someone with their house on fire, and you are holding that bucket that not something that they've invested in, and they are ready, right? They're having problems, but they are willing to do the work. And you are standing with your solution, your bucket of water. And everything else that's friction is like telling them, hold on, please opt into my 24 email sequence and let me know what you thought of the PDF free download. Wait, I'm not going to give you my water until you sit through my 90-minute webinar and hear my irresistible stack that overwhelms you in all of the steps that you have to take before I'm even going to offer you my water. No one would do that. We would not do that. So all we did was have someone that was the perfect client who had an offer, who had a business, but they were suffering. Their house was on fire because they were on the brink of that overwhelm and burnout because everything that they built, right? And this is the way the business cycle should be. When you build something, it is not 100% smooth sailing forever. You create new problems. Mm-hmm. So we're finding the people with the perfect problems for us to stand up and be like, this is the water you need, baby.
Well, and it's interesting. So what is the water? The water is your solution. It's not necessarily, I think that you can refine your process of the solution, but it is your unique solution. So Cassie is fire strategy. I mean, I think we need to trademark that. It's a fire strategy. And for me, it's processes and systems. So while she's sitting there like spewing the fire, I am organizing like Tetris what that process needs to be. Because what we find is most people, where they are in their business, when they come to us, they've gotten to a really good level of revenue, right? They have a really good, strong offer. They know who their dreamies are. But the back end of things is a little bit of a hot mess. And they think in order to take the next step, then it's a big build out of a team. And where do I even start with it? That whole process seems very overwhelming, right? And so it's still simple solutions. That's what my job is. That's why people pay me and her, is to take that big problem that seems very overwhelming and just give me the simple steps, 1, 2, 3, and let me go do that and come back and talk to you. So at the heart of everything that we do is having conversations. Mine are more slanted towards processes and systems, and Cassie's is more slanted to, all right, I see you and I will raise you this strategy. And which led us to, we were having another conversation, Cassie Brown, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? That's a lot like skip the sales page. Like, why? It's a sales page is a friction point. It is all, and oh goodness, like this week I came across a sales page and it, like, my face was sliding off by the time I got to the bottom. And if you get into a point where you have to really lean in and it's a convincing mode that you go into, that's not the right person that's sitting in front of you. You want to lean out. I don't want to have a whole bunch of complicated stuff on a sales page in a framework that someone tells me that this is going to work in order for someone to work with me. I am the water and I am putting out the fire. And for me, skipping the sales page means hopping on a call. So you want to talk about a little bit what our skip the sales page process was, and really it's our answer and our solution to this deconstruct the launch mindset.
Oh, yes. Okay. So I do want to emphasize simple here. And I was looking up a quote because I saw this pop up in my news feed, and I know like there's no coincidences here. So the definition of genius is taking the complex and making it simple. That's a
Ooh,
quote by Albert Einstein. And that one's for you, Rhonda, because that is what a lot of people come to us. Like they think it needs to be overcomplicated. They think there needs to be a lot of steps, a lot of requirements, a lot of checklists and things like that. And that's what we're talking about, like the overarching thing of today's episode in demystifying, right? And deconstructing our definition of launch. Launch to me just means put an offer in your dream client's hands that they are excited to say yes to. That is as complicated as the launch needs to be. And so when we did the workshop for Skip the Sales Page, that was exactly what we were teaching. And, debunking all of these myths and all of the traditional marketing that we're taught. I love marketing. I am a marketing nerd, but to intentionally make something complex is the wrong way to do any business. So will this always work for everybody? And it is like, this is where like there are sophisticated launch strategies, right? But they don't always have their place depending on where you are at in growth phases of your business. It's not a Band-Aid cookie cutter solution, right? These are things that we really need to evaluate and how we can step up and serve. And my favorite thing about that Skip the Sales Page was at the end of it, we did sort of like a hot seat session where we were going to help someone build out and launch their offer that would essentially skip the sales page, right? And Rhonda had some tools and things like that we'll put in the resources. Rhonda uses ThriveCart. It makes it so easy. And she has like an incredibly generous bundle. So I'm just making a note here for Rhonda, like insert link, whatever. So people have that, right? Because that's removing another friction point. But what we did is we walked through what their offer was, who their dream client really was. They hopped on a call with them and so essentially sold a group program, right? That at the beginning of the day, when they woke up and got out of bed that morning, wasn't even a possibility, right? So back to that question, what would it look like? What if I simplified this process and uncomplicated what I was telling myself needed to happen in a sequential order for me to have that quote unquote successful business? You have the power to choose what success looks like for you.
Mm-hmm. And it's really, it's based on your expertise. It's not, and that's what I was talking about, like refining the process, because I didn't want to close off the opportunity that we could continue to learn and add to that. I mean, that's one of the fun things as an entrepreneur is that we are always learning, we're always improving, right? But ultimately at the core, I mean, for you, I mean, if we go back way back to Cassie Brown's story, it was conversations that helped you understand your market, right? And then all of the conversations that you have had to this point, making you like that strategy, that coach that simplifies the difficult when it comes to strategy, right? For me, it wasn't, and I don't know, let's just stop here for a second. Was it always apparent to you that your superpower was breaking down strategy that was easy to implement?
That's a really interesting question, because I would say my superpower is just connecting with people and understanding what it is that they're really trying to build, and then seeing the opportunity to fill that gap in strategy. Because all of the strategy in the world and this checklist, like I can give you a marketing strategy for organic, I can give you a marketing strategy for Facebook, I can give you a marketing strategy for YouTube. Like that doesn't matter if there isn't an alignment with who they are at their core, at their soul, and what they're trying to create on the other side, not only in their own lives, but in the lives of people that they want to impact. So for me, I think it's just, and someone could say something differently, and I'm just naturally curious. So I create a database of like checkpoints and benchmarks of, again, I'm a marketing nerd. So I'm always watching launches. I'm always watching offers. I'm always watching products. And I guess there's sort of like this little person in my brain that has this shelf of offers and the shelves of business model, like, and it's just constantly like running a computer program when I'm talking to this human, to this individual about what they want. And it's almost like a chef, like cultivating a menu that aligns with what they want to create. So
Well,
I hope that answered.
Yeah, no, well, I think one of the friction points for people, if we're saying like, what is their zone? They're searching for what that superpower is. And I know for me, when I transitioned online, at the time I had been running a business, don't quote me, because 4 kids, we'll call it advanced maternal age. I could do anything because I was the business owner. I was email marketing, I was promotions, I was community, and all of those things, right? So what was the one thing? How did I define that superpower? And for a long time, I did not understand or know how to put it into words, because for me, it came really easily. And I didn't even think that people needed processes and systems to function, whether that's life or business. Because I mean, what comes easy to you, we discount that. I mean, we're seeing that in conversations with our members. They're overcomplicating what's already working, which is in their zone. They think that they need more. They need to do more. And they need to stop that. I don't even know like where that comparison is coming from, but stay in the zone of what's working and refine what's working and just do more of that.
Yeah.
It's as simple and as complicated as that.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it back to actually one of the topics that we discussed in the Skip the Sales Page workshop. So you're probably going to need to put a link to that as a resource for this episode too. So note to self. But we talked about evolution versus ego. And I think that really has a good fit here. And I'm also going to add in a note for an open loop. We have an episode coming back up about essentially how to really uncover your superpower and how to leverage your superpower. And I think that is where it is where it boils down to. You said a really magic phrase that I want a lot of people to pay attention to. It was easy for you. And usually things that are easy for us, we devalue because it's low effort, right? We have a program running in our mind, when we were little, when we went to school, whether we were homeschooled or whatever, like it takes hard work. And that is a universal truth. It totally takes hard work and commitment to accomplish what you want to accomplish. But it doesn't mean it has to be hard, right? Someone who has a natural talent for playing the violin, right? They are committed. They are fierce. But it doesn't mean that commitment comes hard to them because they're pulled by their passion, by that soul, right? My oldest son, he's naturally athletic. He would set himself up for failure if he compared himself to that naturally talented violinist that he didn't have a drive to, right? So lean in to your calling. Mm-hmm. And let that be amplified and let that be lit on fire. That's the spark. It doesn't matter what other people are doing, what other people are excelling at, right? And I'm not saying don't get uncomfortable, right? It's no pain, no gain. But what I am saying is there's a lot of gray middle. It's not black or it's not white. It's not one of those things where it's like, it has to always be hard. It does not have to always be hard.
Yeah. And I really want to pick up what you're putting down there, Cassie Brown, because when we started, I looked at you and I said, could it be that easy? I was questioning how easy it was in the conversation. We showed up at the moment and the everything aligned. It worked. Now, in subsequent conversations that we've had, it's almost like sometimes I feel like I get my back up a little bit and I get challenged, but those are good conversations still to have. So then that can help you optimize who it is you want to work for, what exactly it is that you do. Can you put a finger on it? I mean, we are going through that process right now with conversations that we're having, the 90-day conversations that we're having with members, the conversations that we're having with potentially new members that are coming in, the conversations that we're having around what's going to be on the website. How do we put into what it is that we experience and do into words that would then attract the people who we want to work with? We are continually having these conversations. And so while sometimes the journey feels easy and that raises a red flag, I think then we turn around and we're grounded in that. How can we make this easy for our people to find us so that we all skip down the lane together and not question, gosh, it should be so much harder than this? Because when I'm doing a Robin Arzon Peloton ride and it's really hard, that means it's really working, right? We need to reframe the way that we're thinking about this.
Yeah. And so I'll cap that off with the opening of the ego versus evolution. It is a lot of making peace with your ego and realizing it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be polished, right? I learned a long time ago to make peace with fear and make it my friend. When you talk about call my baby ugly, like there's one of these internal fears that we have is criticism and rejection, right? But on the other side of that is when you make peace with your ego and you're like, you know what, where are the gaps? I really want someone who loves me enough that I can come to them hand held open and be like, here's what I got, right? And be willing for them to say, yes, that's it. Or no, this misses the mark for me, right? But I also get to be graceful with myself and be like, how much weight am I giving to this person to impact my decision? Are they a dream client or are they someone that would be a pain in my side to work with? Because if someone's going to be a pain in my side to work with, I am not giving them a weighted opinion on what I do in my life and my business, right? So ego versus evolution, that is evolution. Evolution in the mindset of how and who I work with, evolution and the way that my offer and positioning are polished, evolution in the way that, like, here in the beginning, it was messy. I wasn't quite sure. And I promise you, if you reverse engineer anyone's journey that you look up to right now, Amy Porterfield, Marie Forleo, Russell Brunson, it was messy in the beginning. And that's where we need to be willing to go. We need to be able to make peace with that ego and be willing to just get messy and dirty and serve the people in front of us who align with our principles, who align with our values, who align with their house is on fire. My solution will help you. Let's do this together, right? And then evolve that launch strategy too, right? We get to dial in the systems, and I feel like I'm going on a monologue here. And so I'm going to pause real quick because I do have one last story to share as we wrap it up. And I hope it illustrates the point for everyone and brings it home. But before I do that, like I'm going to pass it to Rhonda because I see, like, I love Rhonda's facial expression. So like, if you guys are just listening to this and you're not watching, like, you've got to watch because you can see, like, I wish there were little cartoons like of all of this stuff going off. So like, I'm going to shush now, Rhonda, and pass it to you.
Well, I think so. One of the things that you said that really kind of opened up for me, and I really hope that people reframe, I think we need to be kinder to ourselves. And one of the things that you just said was opening up the gaps. Where are those gaps? And for ourselves and our reflection of ourselves, we hold ourselves up to such a standard I don't think anybody could pass. And I want to, I guess, draw the analogy of being a mama and looking at our children and thinking about, I guess the way that I want to explain this is I look for areas of opportunity. And in those areas of opportunity, helping my children get past what would be a friction point or what would be an obstacle. I would never be harmful. I would never be harsh. I would never be critical. I would be helpful. So as a future self for that child, that it's no longer a friction point. And I think that when you said it in that way, for me, I just felt about my kids, like whether it was math or science or their writing or, not making the team or not making the team that they wanted. It's like, okay, let's talk about that. Like, where do you see areas of opportunity that may feel like a weakness to you? How can we overcome that? And so they don't look so critically at themselves, but that they see that it's okay, let's break it down and let's work past it. So I don't know, for me, that just really came up. And, in speaking to your children, and this is another conversation we've had, in speaking to your children, you would never be critical like that. And so I really feel like we need to nurture ourselves more. And don't be afraid of those gaps, like run toward them, because as the faster that we can get past them, the faster that we can get to the other side of the things that we want to do.
100%. I feel like we have another episode coming up and I'm going to update our sheet. It's like embrace your human, right? Period. Yeah. There is no human on earth, right? Depending on what you believe, besides Jesus Christ, who have ever been born perfect, right? So let go of that impossible standard. And it's honestly in those imperfections that we find our dream clients, because we're speaking their language and we are the only ones that can speak their language. So the illustration that I wanted to share, I've got another resource. Wow, I'm just full of resources today. So we have Disney Plus, and when Disney Plus first came out, we're huge Disney fans. So we were watching the Imagineering documentary series. So if you guys haven't watched it, I encourage you to watch it. If for nothing else, find the episode when they were first building the Magic Kingdom, and when they were mapping everything out. And this was after the success I believe it was after the success in California, and they were coming to Florida. This is Disney. All right. This is, I don't play level of investment and risk opportunity. If you don't know the story alone, like Walt risked everything, mortgaged his own house when people said no and would not finance it. Like that's how much he believed in the dream. But particularly, like in one of the episodes, they were talking about the design of the Jungle Cruise. And before they got in there and they did the digging and they brought in the professionals and things like that, someone drew the layout with a walking stick and drove it with an employee station wagon to map out the way the route of the boat would go. There wasn't nothing professional about that at all. Messy. And they got it done. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's one. On the other side of this, when they opened, the asphalt had not dried completely. Women's heels were sticking in it, but they opened anyway. They did everything that they could to keep to the publicity deadline, to keep moving forward, to solve every problem that came at them. Going so far as to bring in helicopters to go over, right, the days before of the grand opening, bring in the helicopters to put more air down, to dry it as much as possible. So at the end of the day, we all know what a mega empire Disney is right now. And just imagine, right? Imagine the imperfect action that had to be taken to get to where they're at. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing in your business today.
Well, I'm ready to go talk to more people. I feel like we need a challenge. I feel like what is the takeaway challenge that we want people to go do right now after listening to this episode?
Okay, so 3 steps just popped up into my head. So this is how we're going to roll. 1, ask yourself this question. What would it look like? All right. 2, identify people who you have a relationship right now, who your system, process, solution, whatever it is, right? My process started out as just a Sharpie on a piece of paper. I mean, in a Google Doc, just brain dumped out. But your process will change someone's life. So who is that? Reach out to them, have a conversation. Then number 3, make them an offer. Make them an offer.
And with that, we are out. Thank you so much, Cassie Brown, for that fire. Well, I really hope the story and then the challenge and then the 3 steps, could it be that easy? Absolutely.
100%.
All right. Until next time, take care and we'll talk soon.
Bye, everyone.